across America, something alarming is happening. The familiar fast food chains we grew up with and relied on are quietly collapsing. Burger King has shut down over 400 US locations since 2020. Subway, once the largest chain in the country, now has lost more than 7,000 stores. Even McDonald's is closing hundreds of locations inside Walmart stores. These closures don't just erase food options, but also erase memories, routine, and more dangerously, they erase access for millions of working-class and elderly Americans who depended on these spots for a quick, cheap meal in a chaotic world. If the last affordable bite is vanishing, are we entering a future where eating out is a luxury? This is the Downturn Report, where the truth gets personal, and today, we discover the top 10 fast food chains that could disappear by 2026. Number 1. McDonald's. Do you still remember the good old days when $5 could feed a family of 4 fries, 2 cheeseburgers, and a Coke? That was McDonald's in the past. So warm, so familiar, and present everywhere you need. But in 2025, the US citizens are forced to drive 40 miles just to find one still open. Others stare at menus in disbelief, realizing that a Big Mac combo now costs more than a plate of ribs in a sit-down restaurant. During its golden years, McDonald's boasted over 14,000 US locations and served nearly 70 million customers worldwide each day. More than a fast food brand, it was the rescue of many people. Working people grabbing dinner after a double shift. Elderly neighbors relying on senior discounts. For decades, it stitched itself into the American rhythm, building up a whole empire by Americans' trust. We thought it would always stay the same. But now, McDonald's is facing a hidden crisis behind the curtain, and no one can be sure if it's still there in 2026. But between 2020 and 2024, more than 1,500 US locations quietly shuttered, particularly in lower income and rural areas. In 2023, US revenue rose barely 3%, not from more customers, but from steep price hikes. A McValue meal that once cost under $5 now hovers around $10. Portions have shrunk, quality has dipped, and those who depended on McDonald's most are being priced out. What happened behind the shiny kiosks and experience of the future renovations lies a system stretched too thin. Franchisees complain about soaring ingredient costs and high renovation fees. Meanwhile, competitors like Wendy's and Chick-fil-A evolved with clearer menus and stronger brand identity. McDonald's clung to speed and scale, but that model is faltering. Even new experiments like McPlant fizzled in the shadow of Burger King's Impossible Whopper. See all this. What would be your choice now? What do you think would replace McDonald's in the future? Since this brand is already having too many problems. But it doesn't stop here. People know about the low quality now. But have you ever heard about the moral cracks? In 2021, leaked internal messages from CEO Chris Kempczinski appeared to blame black parents for a tragic accident near a Chicago McDonald's, sparking long-term distrust. Lawsuits over labor violations and stagnant pay continue to shadow the brand, and all of it chips away at the familiar golden arches. The collapse is already affecting real lives. Over 900 corporate staff were laid off. Each closure means longer drives just to find a hot meal. And it's terrible when you are already exhausted or when gas prices are rising more and more now. Low-income families who relied on the $1 menu now find themselves without options. When you're choosing between rent and dinner, the loss of a $5 meal is not as small as it sounds. And if McDonald's keeps vanishing, the loss won't just be about food. Could it be the fading of a deeply American symbol? About comfort. Affordable for ordinary people getting by one quiet closure at a time. The last affordable bite is slipping away. So are the American promises. Someone whispers it behind. But McDonald's is just the beginning. The next brand on this list that is most likely to not survive through 2025 may surprise you even more. Number 2, Burger King. The second biggest fast food empire in America is collapsing with an unimaginable speed right before our eyes. Have you noticed that Burger King, once a royal symbol of flavor and fire-grilled pride, is now burning out, leaving millions feeling disappointed in the smoke in the early 2000s? Burger King operated over 11,000 US locations and stood shoulder to shoulder with McDonald's. Their Whopper was a household name. Millions relied on that cheap meal. For familiarity and consistency, you knew what you'd get. You believed that it would stay with you forever. But by 2025, that empire is shrinking. and the future of 2026 is so gloomy. According to Restaurant Business Online, over a dozen major franchisees have exited, and more than 500 stores have disappeared in just a few years. A troubling wave of closures hit especially hard in the South and Midwest. Despite the chain's still wide recognition, same-store sales have stalled. Competitors like KFC and Wendy's have outpaced Burger King in every direction: technology, delivery, healthier menus, even digital loyalty programs. Burger King's aimed to fix this by its own renovation plan, Burger King of Tomorrow. But the cost of store upgrades became unbearable. Franchisees were forced to foot the bill for new interiors, digital menu boards, and branding changes. Many refused. Some simply walked away. Others watched their profits vanish month by month. Meanwhile, McDonald's rolled out AI drive-thru orders and Wendy's launched breakfast lines that actually worked. Burger King is still trying to recover from lawsuits over Whopper-sized deception and years of franchisee mistreatment. Former workers on TikTok have shared stories of single-staff night shifts, broken equipment, and unsafe working conditions. They are painting a grim picture of what's left behind the counter. If this downward spiral continues, Burger King may not even last until 2026. The loss wouldn't just be a logo fading from a sign, it would echo across tens of thousands of hourly workers, especially people who rely on part-time shifts to pay rent, gas, or food. Communities in food deserts would lose one of the only remaining hot meal options. The flame-grilled burger, once a working-class staple, would vanish into memory. Once upon a time, you had McDonald's for the kids and Burger King for yourself. But when that comfort is under threat, it begs the question: what else are we about to lose? Could the fall of Burger King be the collapse of the American middle meal? Let's face that question. And bear with me more, because the next brand may disappear from your sight overnight. Number 3, Subway. There was a time when Subway stood taller than McDonald's, literally. In 2015, it had over 27,000 locations, with nearly 45,000 globally, more than any other fast food chain. For many Americans, it was the healthy fast food and the illusion of a smarter choice. That dynasty seems to exist timeless, but few people know that in 2024 that symbol is silently collapsing. In just under a decade, Subway shut down over 6,000 US stores. According to Technomic, it now ranks only 6th in revenue among American fast food chains, a stunning fall from its former number 1 position. In 2023, the original owners offloaded the brand to Roark Capital in what analysts quietly dubbed a fire sale, but actually a desperate exit in the face of declining trust and vanishing profits. One of the deepest wounds came from within. Jared Fogle, Subway's longtime spokesperson, was convicted for crimes in 2015. The case related to underage children was so serious and disturbing that Subway had to sever ties immediately. The public association left a moral scar that never quite healed. And then came the tuna scandal. A New York Times investigation in 2021 revealed their tuna contained no identifiable tuna DNA, even as Subway denied the findings. Consumer confidence eroded again. But the impact hasn't just been reputational. It hits every people's daily life, even though they do nothing wrong. Tens of thousands of franchise employees, many of whom were immigrants or older workers in rural towns, have lost their livelihoods in many places. Subway was the only option to have a quick, healthy meal. Now, those storefronts sit dark, the familiar smell of toasting bread replaced by dust and silence. A few miles away, families are forced to choose between overpriced burgers or gas station snacks. For working people or disabled seniors on tight budgets, losing Subway means losing that rare meal that felt just a little cleaner and a little closer to care. And now, with younger consumers turning to meal kits, plant-based bowls, or local sandwich shops, Subway's reinvention may have arrived too late. So what happens when even the healthier fast food can't survive in this economy? As we pass those once familiar green and yellow signs, faded and flickering, we're witnessing the quiet disappearance of the fast, cheap, familiar meals we once thought would always be there. And yet, if you think this is the last sandwich shop struggling to survive, wait until you see what's happening to the next one on this list. Number 4, Jack in the Box. What happens when even the last place symbolized for America's nightlight eventually decides to turn off its lights for decades? Jack in the Box was the wild card hero of American fast food, with tacos, burgers, and breakfast all served under one neon roof. It was a place you could count on, especially late at night or when your wallet was light, in California, Oregon, and Arizona. It was a cultural backdrop to countless road trips, night shifts, and paycheck-stretching meals. But in 2025, that backdrop is dimming over the past 3 years. The chain has closed dozens of locations across the West and Southwest. In some cities, entire zip codes no longer have a single Jack in the Box. At first, management blamed changing tastes, but the problem runs deeper. While rivals like Taco Bell simplified their offerings to keep operations tight, Jack in the Box tried to do everything and paid the price. Their massive mixed menu caused repeated supply chain snarls. One franchise owner anonymously admitted, "We'd run out of onions on Monday and milkshake mix by Friday." And despite trying to modernize with online-only ghost kitchens, the tech wasn't ready, orders went missing, delivery apps overflowed with complaints. On top of that, multiple franchisees sued corporate leadership for negligence and unfair fees. Some franchisees abandoned the brand entirely by mid-2024, closing shops that had served their neighborhoods for over 20 years. When trust is broken, loyalty dies quietly. What fills the gap when Jack disappears? Not everyone can afford Uber Eats. Losing Jack in the Box means losing the one hot meal that was still reachable, still affordable. And when the parking lot goes empty, so does a part of community life, they once said. Jack's always there. But now, even that promise is starting to vanish. And what comes next might shake you even more, because the next chain on this list was once even bigger. Number 5, Hardees. What if the last cheap breakfast in your town quietly disappeared and never came back? Hardees was once a Southern staple. Born in North Carolina in 1960, it quickly became a beloved name across small-town America, with more than 2,500 restaurants at its peak. For decades, it was where you grabbed a hot biscuit for under $3, where working men lined up for a thick burger before heading to job sites, and where retirees gathered over coffee in towns where nothing else opened before 7 a.m. But by early 2024, Hardees had shrunk to under 1,600 stores nationwide. Nearly 100 locations closed in 2023 alone, mostly in low-income areas like West Virginia, Mississippi, and Tennessee. According to internal CKE financial reports, same-store sales plummeted by over 8% last year. Labor and food costs soared, and yet, customers kept leaving. Unlike competitors like Sonic or Chick-fil-A, Hardees failed to modernize. No streamlined app, no fast drive-through lanes, no digital menus, even Popeyes adapted. But Hardees stayed stuck in a time before the smartphone, and the damage shows. But it gets worse. Former CEO Andy Puzder left behind more than bad strategy. He was slammed for promoting hypersexualized ad campaigns that alienated families and women. In 2017, Forbes labeled the brand's commercials among the most offensive of the decade. Worse, labor activists accused CKE of exploiting franchise workers underpaying, opposing unionization, and allowing poor hygiene standards in several stores across Kentucky and Arkansas. For small-town families, the collapse of Hardees hits hard. It's not just a missing biscuit, it's the vanishing of the one place left that offered warmth, routine, and affordable food in places already hollowed out. In many towns, gas stations and grocery prices are already brutal. And now, even the breakfast sandwich is slipping out of reach. Franchisees are backing out. Discounts are failing, and the brand feels like a ghost. While Carl's Jr. still holds ground out west, Hardees is quietly being erased from the South. But if you think this is the worst loss yet, wait until you see what's coming next, because the next brand on this list once redefined American fast food, and now it can barely afford to keep the lights on. Number 6, Checkers and Rallies. In the 2025 economy, even the cheapest fast food joint can't afford to stay open. Checkers and Rallies used to be the beating heart of budget fast food across working-class neighborhoods. Back in the early 2000s, its dual-lane drive-thrus, bold checkerboard design, and spicy seasoned fries made it a symbol of street-smart indulgence. At its peak in 2017, the brand operated nearly 900 locations. It wasn't fancy, but it was hot, salty, and under $5, exactly what millions depended on after a long day. Now the fryers are cooling. In 2023 alone, the company shut down around 30 underperforming stores. In 2024, industry reports showed a 12% drop in overall revenue. Many restaurants have reduced hours or closed temporarily due to severe staffing shortages. Promotions like the $1 deal brought in a short burst of traffic, but not loyalty. In the end, the discounts slashed margins while customers didn't stick around. The system just couldn't keep up. Third-party delivery was adopted far too late, leaving many franchisees scrambling without the tech or manpower to compete. On social media, the black and white brand image looks outdated and aesthetic Gen Z scrolls past. Meanwhile, competitors like Wendy's and even local food trucks offer better digital ordering, fresher options, and faster service. When Checkers disappears from a low-income community, the pain is immediate. This wasn't just fast food, it was survival on a tight budget. Night shift workers, delivery drivers, students thousands who relied on those late-night combos now face higher prices at chains that don't cater to their wallets. Families used to burgers under $5 are now cornered between overpriced McDonald's or questionable corner stores with poor sanitation. Attempts to revive the brand have been sluggish. Menu screens and remodels were promised, but few saw them happen. Franchises are hesitating to reinvest. The risk now a full market exit before 2026. But if you thought only smaller chains were struggling to breathe, brace yourself, because up next is a fallen titan, once the undisputed king of American buffet culture, now teetering on the edge of extinction. Number 7, Krystal. Can a brand that survived the Great Depression really collapse in the age of apps and food trucks, founded in 1932 in Chattanooga, Tennessee? Krystal was once a proud icon of Southern street food, known for its square sliders and late-night drive-through culture. The brand expanded through Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, and beyond. For decades, it stood as a direct rival to White Castle, offering greasy comfort food that became a weekend tradition for millions. But now, the old neon glow is flickering. In January 2020, Krystal filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, with debts exceeding $100 million. Though Fortress Investment Group temporarily revived the chain, reports from 2024 show dozens of quiet closures continuing, especially in underperforming regions. The wounds, it seems, were only bandaged, not healed. Competition in the Southeast has intensified. Krystal's once loyal territory has been overtaken by Popeyes, Chick-fil-A, and Wendy's brands with sleek tech, robust marketing, and far bigger wallets. In comparison, Krystal's scattered attempts at modernizing stores or introducing spicy chicken sliders feel underfunded and out of sync. Workers, too, are walking away. Franchise owners report unbearable heat in cramped kitchens, staff shortages, and rock-bottom pay. Locations have been forced to cut hours or close temporarily, driving loyal customers elsewhere. Add to that frequent shortages of core ingredients like buns and Krystal sauce complaints that flood review sites, and you have a recipe for collapse. Financially, the brand remains fragile. Despite restructuring, its razor-thin margins leave no room for shocks. With inflation driving up supply costs and Gen Z largely unimpressed, analysts warn Krystal may not make it to 2026. The emotional toll is harder to measure. For many, Krystal was a taste of youth, a greasy bag of sliders after Friday night football, or a reward after a long graveyard shift. When that disappears, it's not just another closure, it's a fracture in the memory of the South. And just when you think the downfall of a Southern legend is the peak of despair, the next name in our list will strike even deeper, because it was once the go-to comfort stop for families across America. And now, it's fading in plain sight. Number 8, Boston Market. It used to feel like home. A hot plate of roasted chicken, buttery corn, mashed potatoes, and warm cornbread. Boston Market wasn't just food. It was comfort. It was Sunday dinner without the cleanup. At its peak in the late 1990s, Boston Market had over 1,000 locations across the country. It catered to working families, the elderly, and blue-collar neighborhoods that relied on hearty, affordable meals. It was the affordable sit-down experience before fast casual was a term. But in 2023, that comforting presence started vanishing fast. Over 300 locations were shut down, many forcibly closed by local authorities for unpaid rent, back taxes, or wage violations. In New Jersey alone, the state ordered the closure of 25 locations for failing to pay employees on time. By early 2024, the company had fallen into a deep operational collapse. Court filings and state investigations revealed that Boston Market owed millions of dollars in unpaid taxes, vendor bills, and license fees. Lawsuits from unpaid suppliers surged, while some stores ran out of basic ingredients like rotisserie chicken and mashed potatoes, turning away hungry customers at dinner time. At the center of this implosion is CEO Jay Pandya, who has faced accusations of mismanagement, evading press, and going radio silent during the company's worst moments. Former employees across Colorado, Florida, and Arizona reported working for weeks, sometimes months without pay. Many claim they were ghosted by corporate with no warning. Meanwhile, online reviews painted a grim picture: spoiled food, filthy restaurants, foul odors, and raw poultry served to customers. Viral images of moldy cornbread and undercooked meat accelerated public distrust. For working-class families, the loss goes deeper. Boston Market was one of the last places offering full, warm meals for under $10. Its disappearance in states like Ohio, Pennsylvania, and Illinois left elderly residents and low-income communities with nowhere to turn, especially those without access to a stove or fresh groceries. Even attempts to revive the brand through online delivery or updated menus failed. Competitors like Cracker Barrel, Panera, and local diners already filled the space Boston Market once owned and filled it better. So now, a brand built on warmth and trust is teetering at the edge of collapse, perhaps never returning. And as we lose another familiar place at the dinner table, we're left to wonder who's really still cooking for the American family. But brace yourself, because the next chain on this list once ruled the world of value meals, and now it's burning through cash faster than it can grill a sandwich. Number 9, Long John Silver's. There was a time when seafood wasn't luxury, when $10 could buy you a full plate of crispy fish, hush puppies, fries, and a cold drink. For decades, Long John Silver's made that dream possible, especially for families in the South, the Midwest, and blue-collar towns that never had a Red Lobster. Founded in 1969, Long John Silver's peaked with over 1,200 locations by the early 2000s. Its fried fish combo became a staple in rural America, especially where fresh seafood was out of reach. But today, that golden crisp is crumbling. As of 2023, the chain had shrunk to just over 700 locations. Stores are closing quietly in states like Ohio, Kentucky, and West Virginia, hollowing out the very communities that built it. Technomic data confirmed a 19% drop in average store revenue between 2019 and 2023. So what went wrong? Long John Silver's stayed frozen in time, literally. While Americans moved toward grilled, low-oil, or plant-based diets, the chain doubled down on deep-fried everything. Gen Z and younger millennials abandoned it, while older customers faced a growing problem: rising prices and falling portions. One Reddit user shared a viral photo of a $12 combo that barely covered half the tray. But it got worse. In 2022 and 2023, over 30 locations were hit with lawsuits over unsanitary conditions, including reused fryer oil and signs of bacterial contamination. The FDA issued federal warnings about food safety in several Midwest stores. The chain tried to raise prices quietly, but customers noticed and walked away. The human toll massive in many rural towns. Long John Silver's was the only seafood option. Its disappearance left the elderly and disabled, especially those without transport, stranded without access to protein-rich meals. Internally leaked documents revealed that over 800 workers were laid off between 2022 and 2024 without proper unemployment filing. Meanwhile, in 2023, CEO Jamie B. Wilson sparked outrage for accepting a $6 million bonus during a year of record losses. The scandal widened when The Guardian revealed the parent company had rerouted profits to offshore tax havens, even while applying for pandemic relief from U.S. taxpayers. If nothing changes, Long John Silver's might vanish entirely before 2026. Not just another brand fading into the background, but a symbol of how quickly affordable, honest meals are being erased from working-class life. And if you think seafood's collapse is tragic, wait until you see the next brand, once America's spicy chicken darling, now roasting in its own downfall. Number 10, Quiznos. What happens when a sandwich empire quietly crumbles without anyone noticing? In the early 2000s, Quiznos was the hottest name in American fast food. At its peak in 2007, the toasted subchain had over 4,700 locations worldwide, with more than 4,000 in the US alone. Their ovens gave sandwiches a crackling golden crust, making them feel a step above cold-cut competitors like Subway. For many Americans, Quiznos was a taste of something special, warm, fresh, and slightly upscale, but that warm memory has grown cold. By 2024, only about 150 Quiznos restaurants remain in the U.S. The company filed for bankruptcy in 2014, crushed under more than $500 million in debt. Even after years of restructuring, the brand never recovered. Once thriving locations in New York, Los Angeles, and Chicago have vanished, replaced by empty storefronts and broken signage. The downfall wasn't sudden, it was engineered. Quiznos used a predatory franchise model, forcing franchisees to buy overpriced ingredients from approved vendors, leaving many operating at a loss. Hundreds of owners filed a class action lawsuit in 2009, accusing the company of financial manipulation and deception. For many, this wasn't just a failed business, it was the loss of a dream. Worse, Quiznos failed to modernize. While rivals like Jersey Mike's and Jimmy John's embraced delivery apps, social media marketing, and ingredient transparency, Quiznos stuck to outdated methods. Their mobile presence was clunky. Their menu, once bold, became stagnant. Customers moved on, and so did trust. The collapse has hit local economies hard. Thousands of small business owners were left bankrupt in many neighborhoods. Quiznos had been a reliable, slightly premium lunch option, now replaced by vacant buildings and job losses. And unlike Subway, which pivoted and survived, Quiznos never found a second act. A 2023 revival effort, including a next-generation prototype store in Denver, failed to spark buzz, and with major sandwich chains dominating the 2020s, Quiznos appears frozen in the past, trapped in its own toasted shell. Once, these restaurants were more than meals, they were part of America's daily rhythm. But now, as closures sweep across neighborhoods, the last affordable bite is vanishing before our eyes. For many working families, it's not just about losing cheap food, it's about losing a place that felt reliable, familiar, safe. Each shuttered store signals something deeper, that the old comforts we relied on may no longer be there when we need them. As brands collapse in silence, we're left with rising prices, fewer choices, and a haunting question if even these are disappearing. What future is left for the average American?